All right, looking at chapter 2 then of Matthew. So the first part of Matthew talks a lot about genealogy. Heard a sermon one time, preacher did the whole thing, read all the names. It's kind of impressive. I can't begin to pronounce half of them. Genealogy is there because it's telling us the prophecy and how it became fulfilled. Because prophecy many times said that the Messiah, the chosen one, Emmanuel, God with us, was going to come from this line of families and people, and it did. That's why the genealogy is there. And then Matthew goes into the nativity scene. And then it goes into a little bit about the wise men. We don't really know exactly what the jobs were, why they were called wise men. Apparently they were respected from the places that they came from. It says they came from the east. We don't know the east of what. we're not really sure. Because if you're in the west, the east is a long ways. Just how far east can you go? I don't know. Nobody really knows. But all we know is that they were a ways away, and they were coming to this place that they felt like they were led to go to. It's really about all we know about them. Now, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem. So, I know you may have a little nativity scene at home with the little people and the little shepherds and the wise men all gathered around the little thingy. I don't mean to mess up your nativity scene, but that did not happen. The only people that were really there were the shepherds, as far as we know. The wise men came later, and they came to Jerusalem, not to Bethlehem. Jesus was born in Bethlehem. Now he's in Jerusalem. And that would make sense. If the wise men are seeking out a king, they would go to basically like the capital. So they're going to a place where they would assume that a king would be. So they come from the east and they go to Jerusalem saying, where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him. All right, well, what in the world's all that about, right? We've heard this story a billion times. What does it really mean? First of all, we have to understand, as far as you know, these people were when we say they're wise men, they were people that were wise about astrology. A lot of times they would interpret life's events in parallel fashion with what's going on in the stars and astrology. As we know, stars move about in certain patterns, in certain ways, and anytime something odd happens in the universe, these people would assume then that something was also going on Earth. So if Saturn or Jupiter or something did something odd or was in a different place, then they would say this must be a sign that something is happening on Earth. So that is the same here. They are saying that this star they're following must have some special significance. A king has been born. King Herod, he's involved in his own world. He never probably went to Sunday school. He doesn't know much about prophecy for the Jews. All he knows is they're people he's supposed to control. And sometimes they get out of hand, and he's got to bring down a heavy hand on them. He's not really, he doesn't know all the information we know, but he knows that somebody's talking about there's another king, possibly to cause him problems. So he says, when Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Well, why was Jerusalem troubled? Why would they be troubled? For the very fact that if they knew King Herod was going to be upset over this, that means he was going to lay a heavy hand upon them too. Nobody wants the king to be unhappy. So the people were troubled that he was troubled. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes and the people together, so he put together his little cabinet of people that are supposed to know things. And he said to them, where is this Christ? Where the Christ was to be born. They said, well, Bethlehem in Judea. And they said, the Jews have this thing called prophecy, and they have a whole lot of people long ago that prophesied this. And here's what comes to the Bible, they said, or Old Testament at that time. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, and not the least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you shall come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel. Well, that's not good news to Herod. He's like, so they think there's going to be a ruler over Israel. He's like, I'm the ruler over this land. Then Herod, when he had secretly called the wise men, people come to town to find the king. He's like, bring them on in. Determined from them what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, go and search carefully for the young child. And when you have found him, bring him back to me, that I may come and worship him also. Now, do you believe that? You believe that Herod was going to worship him? No. How stupid does he think people are? He told them, I'm a good guy. Go find the king, bring him here, and I'm going to bow down and worship him. No. Wrong. He's lying. When they heard the king, they departed. Behold, the star which they had seen in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. Oh, it doesn't say baby in a manger. Oh. But that's okay. We still put our nativity all together in one place. So here Jesus is a little older. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceedingly great joy. And then when they had come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, and they fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented gifts to him, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. All right, so a lot has been written about these three things. Now, first of all, I am just dispelling all of your Christmas myths. The reason that people have three wise men in their little nativity scene is because there were three gifts. It doesn't say anything that there were actually three wise men. But that's okay. We can say there's three people that each have a gift. But we really don't know how many there were, 10, 12, 2, 3, 1. All we know is that they brought three gifts. So the gifts were gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So these are interesting gifts. Gold. The only people that had gold back at that time would be kings, people that were very wealthy. So that's an appropriate gift to bring something of honor to a king or someone wealthy. Frankincense, just like it sounds. Frankincense, incense. Incense was used a lot of times in worship. So they're worshiping a king, so they bring him frankincense. Myrrh is like a spice kind of a thing. So they're bringing gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. The myrrh, a lot of times, the frankincense were also things that were used in burials to keep the smells nice. So isn't that interesting that we're already talking about something that may be happening later to Christ later? Them being divinely warned in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed for their own country another way. So again, God is intervening in the nativity story to get things straight. All right, so, just that brief passage right there, our message is gifts and the unexpected. How do those two things go together? Well, first of all, I don't remember last week I asked you to come up with a statement of what you would like people to remember about you when you're no longer here on this earth. I'm not going to ask you the answer yet. I'm going to give you one more week to think about that. If you forgot to think about it again this week. If you're no longer here, what would you want people to remember about you? That'll come up significant next week. The wise men go to Jesus and they bring gifts. The parallel on that, of course, is that the greatest gift that's ever been given is a gift of the God of the universe, our Father, giving His Son as a gift to us, which is truly the Christmas story. So when we are giving gifts to one another, I'm not opposed to the giving of gifts. Isn't it a great feeling to give somebody a gift? Of course, as children, sometimes it's a great feeling when we get all the stuff. But then as you get a little older, it's really nice to give a gift to people that may not expect it. It's an awesome feeling. So just think about that. Think about what God must have felt when He's giving this gift of Himself to us people. And so we're saying, well, okay, that's, that's something that you haven't considered or pondered in your life, I ask you to do that. It really didn't hit me until I was about in my 30s as to what exactly that meant for someone to give their son as a sacrifice to someone else. And sometimes I don't think you actually understand the fulfillment of that until you actually have children. We know how much we love our children, and you want to protect them, and you love them. They're very important to you. You want anything to happen to them. And then for God to show his love is so great to us by giving us this ultimate gift and sacrifice of his son so that we may have hope for a future. So how does the unexpected play into this? So I'm thinking about this already this week, the unexpected. And then, of course, on Monday, the unexpected happened to me. Out of nowhere, for no reason or no fault of my own that I'm aware of, I'm in extreme pain. And I can barely walk. I can barely talk. It hurt to talk. It hurt to chew. It basically hurt to live. And I'm thinking, this is unexpected. And I just started thinking, well, look at all the unexpected things that do happen in our lives. And how you can look at that. Initially, I think we do have that reaction of maybe, it's unfair or why God. A lot of times there's anger at God for the unexpected things that happen to us, especially if something's very tragic. So at first glance, you may have this initial reaction of anger. Martin Luther, many times, they ask him, are you ever angry at God? And he says, no, I'm not angry at God. Sometimes I despise him and what he does to me or people that I love or events. I think this is being very honest. Sometimes we have a lot of anger towards God for the things that we say, God, you knew this was going to happen and you could prevent it. Don't you love me? Why? Why do we have to go through these things like this? And obviously a very hard event that happens, this week is people were asking that question too in Mayfield, Kentucky. The people just went to work at that factory like they always do in the night shift of no cause of their own, of no cause of anyone on this earth. The weather just decided to take them out. I'm sure there's a lot of people right now questioning, why, God? Why? This is unfair. It's painful. And I thought my spouse or my father or my mother or my kids or whatever were going to be around for a long time, but now they're gone. It's so unfair. People are saying, I'm sure themselves, I hate you, God. Can't believe you did this. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to come to the place of understanding that God understands. God understands the pain and the heartache of what we go through because he has given up his one and only son as a sacrifice for people that are very undeserving. We are very imperfect people, not deserving of this kind of a gift. How do we get out of that vein of blaming God for these things that happen? How do we get out of the anger of the unexpected? The quickest way to that path of wholeness again is to start giving those gifts again. So I ask you this Christmas, and we're very blessed to be here today, all of us. Some people couldn't do that today because they're no longer here. What is going to be your gift that you give God this year for Christmas? He's given us his gift of his only son. We celebrate it every year. So it's kind of like a New Year's resolution. So part B of your question, your homework for next week. 1, what do you want people to say about you when you're no longer here? And then 2, what's going to be your gift to God this year? When you bring him your gift, let's bring a gift to God this year. What's it going to be? I've already got one in mind. I know what my gift's going to be. It's going to be hard to give, but I'm going to give it. It's going to be hard to give. So what are you going to bring to the child of God this year? The wise men, they brought gifts that they thought were very important. And then some of them were very expensive. So they did sacrifice somewhat to bring those gifts to God. So as you approach the nativity scene, you approach the God of the universe and his son this year, and you can't, no, Colton, you can't bring gold, frankincense, and myrrh. That's already been done. I know what you're thinking. It's not.
I'll bring silver.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Well, I recommend something intangible. So, and then God does. God again to get 10 commandments over there, and he doesn't want any graven images or anything. So, what can we give God that's intangible this year for Christmas? What can we bring as we follow the star? So, think about that this week. What do you want to be known as when you're gone? What's going to be your gift that you bring to Jesus this year? And then we'll revisit this next week. Let's pray.